Oh boy, the Japanese sales numbers for Pokemon Legends ZA just came out, and Pokemon is so cooked for more than one reason. It's actually crazy. These numbers are wild because Pokemon Legends ZA has somehow managed to be the most confusing mix of hype, disappointment, and deja vu that I have ever seen. The past few days, the discourse surrounding Pokemon Legends ZA has been intense. It really does seem like the community is completely divided 50-50, and of course, if somebody disagrees with whatever you think, they're a grifter, and if they agree with you, well then of course they're a true fan of the franchise. This whole thing has been comical to watch, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but these sales numbers are so interesting because at first glance it might look good, and to an extent it could be, but there's a few other surrounding key variables that absolutely have to be addressed. So today we're going to do a deep dive to figure out just how well Pokemon Legends ZA actually sold, how does it compare to past Pokemon games, and is this good or is this bad? But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Real quick, my most recent Legends ZA video was hyped to number 19 in the entire United States, which blows my mind. So I just want to say thank you guys, like genuinely everyone who used the hype feature and liked that video. It really helps out small channels like mine a ton, so I can't thank you enough. Seriously, thank you. Okay, let's jump right in here. We have the Famitsu sales data from October 13th to 19th, and what you can see is actually Pokemon Legends ZA is broken down by the Switch and the Switch 2 version. And if you guys did see my most recent Legends ZA video, what you'll know is that a slight majority of the Legends ZA copies sold in the UK, to be specific 51%, were actually Switch 2 versions, and we can see in Japan that that is completely not the case. So what we see here is Pokemon Legends ZA of course debuted at #1 last week, and for the Nintendo Switch sold 872,000 copies, and for the Switch 2 we see it sold 612, almost 613,000 copies, for a grand total of 1.48 million retail copies sold. Now this is physical game software, so we don't have the digital numbers here, but this does in fact include the Switch 2 bundle for Pokemon Legends ZA. And as a matter of fact, what we can see here is that the Switch 2 sold 201,000 units in Japan last week, and I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that a large majority of those were the Pokemon Legends ZA bundle. We don't have exact numbers here. It doesn't break it down between just the Switch 2, the Mario Kart bundle, the Legends ZA bundle. We don't really know, but what we do know is that this was the biggest single week sales for the Switch 2 since its launch. It's kind of crazy. In fact, as some of you guys know, I have been keeping track of the Switch 2 sales in Japan, and as you can see, the first week, so literally launch weekend, they sold almost 1 million units in Japan, and the following week it fell to 153,000. So what we can see is Pokemon Legends ZA single-handedly brought the Switch 2 to the second best-selling week of the console of all time in Japan, which is truly insane. And I mean, that's no surprise, right? Like, it's Pokemon is the biggest franchise in the world when it comes to gaming and really in entertainment in general, so it's no surprise that Pokemon would sell a tremendous number of these units. And really, I almost feel like it should have sold more than 200k, right? I mean, I guess Legends ZA came out for the Switch 1, and it's not technically a mainline Pokemon game, even though the Pokemon company is trying so hard to pretend like the Legends series is mainline games, and they're like, it is, we're telling you it is, and then they don't treat it as such, and no one acts as such, and everyone just, once they beat the game, they're just sitting around waiting for the actual next gen, which is Gen 10. Anyway, the point is Pokemon moved units objectively. It sold a tremendous number of Switch 2s. I feel like it should have sold more, but the point is that this was, or last week was, the second best selling week for the Switch 2 console in its entire lifespan. That's kind of crazy. But let's actually take a look at the first week sales numbers for the Pokemon series. Now this actually includes, this is a list that I compiled. Okay, I used just the Japanese sales data. That's all that I have here. I don't have the US, I don't have the rest of the world. We're just comparing Japanese sales because that's what we have from Famitsu, and we did sprinkle in a couple of things like Battle Revolution, we have XD Gale of Darkness, Coliseum, Stadium, etc, etc. I just wanted to know how they sold on the home consoles. By the way, all this data is from nichebarrier.com. okay, they actually have have all of the sales information, you can go back through different years and see how these games actually sold in Japan. It's actually quite cool, and they're broken down by Famitsu, Amazon, etc. So that's the source of this data, in case you guys were wondering. And the reason Stadium is in yellow is because I'm pretty sure this is an estimate. That's like the closest that I could get here. But anyway, as you can see here, a lot of the most recent Pokemon games sold millions of units. I mean, ever since Heart Gold and Soul Silver, we've seen over 1 million units sold for every single one. Now, the exception here is Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu. I don't know what happened with that. I think it's because it was only on the Switch. The Switch was relatively new at that point, although it was out for a year. It was also seen as more of a like Pokemon Go game, which was popular. But my point is, I'm not here to explain the sales data. I have no idea why it sold so poorly. If you have an idea, you can let me know in the comment section below. But let's actually plug in the Legends ZA numbers here. All right, we have 1.48 million units sold in its first week. Let's compare that to Scarlet and Violet, which was the most recent Pokemon game that is even relevant here, because that was also an open world. And you can see that the first week in Japan, Scarlet and Violet sold 2.5 million units. So what we can see here is that Legends ZA saw a 41.4% reduction in sales compared to the most recent Pokemon game. I mean, straight up, that is just the data. We see a 41% sales collapse from the last game to this game. Now, I know what you're saying. These are not the same, right? This is sort of apples and oranges. This is a Legends game compared to Scarlet and Violet. And I guess that's true, but we'll talk about why there's some nuance to get into there in just a moment. Let's compare the sales numbers to the first week for Legends Arceus. And what we can see is it's basically a 1-to-1 ratio. In fact, Pokemon Legends EA technically sold slightly better than Pokemon Legends Arceus in its first week, which is pretty crazy. But the numbers are, I mean, it speaks for itself. They're basically identical. Okay, so everyone who liked Arceus came over and bought Legends EA. That pretty much explains it. The few people that thought that Legends EA looked horrible were made up for by a couple of people who bought Scarlet and Violet and thought, hey, why not? I'll try Legends EA as well, right? In fact, it even sold better first week than Sword and Shield, which is truly kind of crazy. So we have a few takeaways here. Okay, what we've learned is that from Arceus to ZA, sales are stagnant pretty much. I mean, they're not growing, they're not shrinking. It's just the Legends series is just doing more of the same, and it's appealing to the same audience. They're not appealing to more people. It just is what it is. I'm not sure if that's what the Pokemon franchise wanted. I think what they wanted was to have the Legends spin-off series become as popular or more popular than the mainline games, right? I mean, that was the whole point of the Legends series, was to try something new, have a new battle style, a new formula, do different things. And I think their bet there was that if they strayed away from the Pokemon formula, what they would find is that maybe they could have the franchise perform even better. Unfortunately, that is not the case. The Legends series is stagnant from one game to another, and it is a 41% drop off from the most recent actual mainline games, which is kind of staggering if you think about it, right? What that means is you had a massive success with Scarlet and Violet, and about 1 million of those people saw Legends ZA and thought, no thank you, I'm not interested, right? And so that means a couple of things. First of all, either they got Scarlet and Violet, hated it so much that they are done with Pokemon, or they liked Scarlet and Violet but saw how awful Legends ZA looked and said, oh my god, absolutely not, I am not buying that, right? But one thing is for sure, Pokemon is not going to be happy about this massive sales drop off. I mean, we've never seen a drop off this big before in the entire Pokemon franchise, unless you count Ruby and Sapphire to Pokemon Coliseum, right? Which, I mean, I guess maybe, I don't know, or like Diamond and Pearl to Battle Revolution. But I mean, Battle Revolution, that game was actually horrible. One of my first YouTube videos ever on an old channel was me talking about how bad that game was. So I guess some things never change. But yeah, I mean, the comparable thing here would be to look at Black and White and go to Black and White 2. And it's hard to really even make that comparison either, because Black 2 and White 2, I mean, by them adding the number 2, what they're saying is it's a sequel, and it's effectively just the same game, right? I mean, it's like Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, right? Like Emerald is the third game. Black 2, White 2 were the follow-ups to the mainline games here. And so like, it's logical to assume it's going to sell less because it's always been the case, right? Crystal sold less than Gold and Silver, Emerald sold less than Ruby and Sapphire, and so on and so forth. The only exception there is Pokemon Yellow, but that's because that's when Pokemon exploded in popularity, right? We all know that. So yeah, I mean, really, this is quite a crazy development where we see sales drop by 1 million units from one game to the next. It's probably raising some red flags, right? Because here's the thing. First of all, let me just get this out of the way, because I don't want people to think that I'm just going to sit here and bash the sales numbers. This is a really good selling first week, straight up, objectively. Like this sold 1.4 million units at a time where consumers are price sensitive, and a lot of these units were people buying a whole new console. Like this game sold well objectively in the gaming sphere, in the grand scheme of things. The game sold well. Let me just dispel any doubt, okay? But for Pokemon specifically, I do think that they're going to be a little bit concerned about this, right? Because again, like I said, big drop off from the last game to this game. 1 million units, 41% drop off in sales. That's not good. The Legends spin-off series is stagnant. It is not growing by a meaningful amount here. 1.4 million units for both games in the series. I don't think that they're going to like that. But beyond that, here's something you have to keep in mind. Nintendo sold millions of Switch 1 units since Scarlet and Violet, and also millions of units of the Switch 2 since that came out earlier this year. So if we look at the install base for Pokemon Legends ZA compared to its predecessors, it's never been bigger. This is the biggest install base for any Pokemon game on the Switch, and we actually see a 41% reduction in sales from its predecessor. That can't be good, right? How is it possible that more people have Switches? The Switch 2 came out, millions of people have that, and so you have the maximum number of consumers here that you've ever had for a Pokemon game on Switch, and yet your sales are stagnant from its predecessor and a 41% drop from the most recent mainline Pokemon game. When you look at it from that perspective, I really don't know if Nintendo is going to be happy. Well, I mean, they'll be happy that they only needed to sell like 200,000 units for this to even be profitable, because they don't care about their consumers and they're just giving you slop and everyone's eating it up, clearly. But a big reason why Nintendo might not be happy about these sales numbers is because of the massive marketing push that they had for this game. I mean, this game was, bro, the ads for this game were everywhere, bro, especially in Japan. Just this month they had 3 new Japanese commercials for the game, and they even went as far as hiring a bunch of different celebrities to try to push this game as much as possible. Here we can see Stranger Things Gaten Matarazzo, sorry if I mispronounced that, but they even hired him to be in an ad, and like Stranger Things itself is mega popular as well. This was posted on Threads 10 days ago. This Pokemon Legends ZA ad actually featured Ryo Yoshizawa, sorry if I mispronounced that, and Eliza Ikeda. So he is an actor and she is an actress and I believe a model. So again, Pokemon spent millions and millions of dollars. They hired celebrities from all around the world to promote this thing, and there's more examples as well. Like they're renting massive billboards in all these cities. We saw that one already. Like it's everywhere. Like the marketing push was so massive that even Forbes wrote an article about it. Pokemon Legends ZA's bold marketing redefines the franchise's usual strategy. When Pokemon Legends ZA was first announced, there was little to no gameplay footage or Pokemon battles shown. Gee, I wonder why. The initial trailer depicted Lumio City, based on Paris, France, undergoing an urban redevelopment project. For weeks, the trailer dominated online discussions, and nearly a year later, ZA has cautiously revealed limited information to fans. Like most franchise entries, it has shared basic details such as game mechanics, starter Pokemon, brief bios for key characters. Some fans criticized the marketing, noting the previous games typically revealed more as the launch approached. While this frustration is understandable, the Pokemon franchise has adopted a new marketing approach for ZA, a multi-genre campaign that combines game promotion with cinematic storytelling. And then they actually go through and they show off the ways that they revealed like some of the different megas, right? Like the Mega Victory Bell, they had Mega Malamar and things like that. That was a found footage horror reveal for Victory Bell, by the way. They also had a pro wrestling event set in a real life arena in Mexico in collaboration with the CMLL, where fans could watch luchadors dressed in outfits inspired by their favorite Pokemon duke it out as mascots. Pikachu and Eevee cheered them on from the sidelines. So my point in telling you all of this, right, is that they took a new marketing strategy and pushed this game absolutely everywhere, to the point where the marketing budget for this game certainly was almost as much, if not more than the actual development cost for the game itself. Now that's not that much money, right? It's like $13 million or something like that. They probably spent between 10 and 15 million on marketing for the game. That's pretty standard, I would say, for a lot of these big game releases. Lots of games spend almost as much on the marketing as they do on the game itself, right? So that's no different. But to go through all of that just to have a 41% reduction in sales despite a much larger install base and despite being the hype for the new console, and also to be stagnant with your predecessor in the same series, I don't think Pokemon is going to be super happy about this, even though the game objectively did sell really well. I want to make that very clear. So if the game sold well, why am I saying that Pokemon is cooked, right? I started the video by saying Pokemon is cooked in more ways than one. Well, again, we just talked about the drop off from Scarlet and Violet, but there's two more reasons that I want to talk about. Okay, first of all, the game sold well despite being slop. I mean, you know it, I know it, everyone knows it. People like to say, oh, only grifters are disagreeing with it, right? It's like, okay, well, if I make a video and it gets over 250,000 views and I only have 15k subscribers, it's like, no, actually that opinion is really resonating with a lot of people. In fact, a lot of people feel the exact same way that I do. It's not grifting if you're striking a chord with hundreds of thousands of people. Does that make sense? Like this whole narrative that's being spread on Twitter where, oh, these YouTubers are being mean to Nintendo, therefore they're just grifting. Like that narrative is so old already because it is so obviously wrong. Like these people are so emotionally attached to Nintendo, they're no longer in reality. They can't understand how people could be upset with Nintendo or how people could be upset with Pokemon Legends EA having the graphics of a game from 20 years ago, right? Like they're so emotionally cooked, they don't actually understand how hundreds of thousands of people organically arrived at this exact same conclusion, but because it hurts their feelings, oh, it's just grifting, right? Okay, if that helps you sleep at night, sure, we'll just pretend that I'm a big grifter and that there aren't hundreds of thousands of people that agree with me, but okay, fine. But my point is, okay, Pokemon Legends EA looks like shit, it runs like shit, it plays like shit, the story is shit, the game is not good, okay? And even still, this game sold 1.4 million units, which means Pokemon in the future is cooked. What you've just done is prove to Pokemon that they can serve you up a half-baked piece of trash, millions of you will gobble it up, and that's it. You're just gonna keep getting fed trash. You're trapped. You're never gonna get out of this cycle because you guys can't stick up for yourselves, even when it comes to something as simple as your own entertainment, right? We're talking about video games. If you can't even vote with your wallet when it comes to a video game, you're cooked, right? And so is the franchise. So what Pokemon learned here is that, okay, sure, the Legends franchise is not growing. We saw a decrease from Gen 9 to this game, but they'll still sell millions of copies even if the game is garbage, and that's all that they learned here. Okay, all that they learned is they do not have to try. They can upsell you with DLC on day one for $30, half the cost of the game, by the way, and the Pokemon franchise is just going to keep getting fed slop until they stop buying the game, right? And what we see here is that they still haven't learned their lesson. Unfortunately, they still fell for it. It's like that meme, fell for it again award, right? You fell for it again award once again. Oh, you fell for it once again. They got your money, man. They got your money again. Crazy, right? So the Pokemon franchise from a quality perspective is cooked. I have no expectations for the future games. That's it, right? I mean, as long as the mindless Pokemon consumers continue buying the slop, they continue buying the Funko Pops, right? Like just your average 70 IQ consumer, as long as they continue to buy these games in droves in the millions, you're going to keep getting slop. And so for me, I'm out. I didn't buy Legends EA. I'm not buying whatever Gen 10 is. It's unless a huge change is shown in the trailers, or I mean, at this point we need an apology, like straight up. Nintendo and the Pokemon company, they genuinely should issue a statement and be like, look, hey, we're sorry, the game needed 2 more years to cook. We wanted to rush it out for the Switch 2 launch here. It is what it is. Like I would be happy with an apology. Maybe I would consider a future Pokemon game if they can show with their actions that they've learned their lesson. But again, with the sales numbers, the only lesson they learned is that they'll feed you slop and you'll buy it, right? For a premium price, by the way, for more money than you've ever spent before in a Pokemon game, you'll still buy it by the millions. Kind of insane. Okay, what's the other reason why? Because I said there was 2. There's another reason why Pokemon is cooked. Okay, the reason is because the backlash for Legends EA has been bigger than we've ever seen for a Pokemon game before. You don't have to look any farther than my own videos covering this. Okay, I need you guys to understand I am a 15,000-16,000 subscriber channel and I am batting way out of my league here with these view numbers. You guys, and I gotta thank you again, this is it's actually insane. I can't believe the number of you guys who have been supporting the content lately. It truly means means the world to me. And by the way, a lot of you guys might think you're subbed, but you're actually not, so just double check down there. But the point is, if even smaller YouTubers are making videos with hundreds of thousands of views and everyone agrees, they're like, oh yeah, the game looks like trash. Most of the comments on my video are people just agreeing with huge paragraphs. People are like, yo, this man's spitting facts, right? I mean, and it's true. And so I do think that as the backlash has been growing, and I will say that the backlash for Pokemon, I think, has been growing since Sword and Shield. I think the wild zones, and by the way, I thought Sword and Shield were fine, right? I thought they were fine. They were totally okay. But a lot of people really criticized those games for being too safe and for the wild areas not being fleshed out enough. The graphics were not very good, etc., 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 yada, 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 the same stuff, right? I think that's where the backlash started to begin. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were lazy and really poorly done remakes, right? Remakes of the originals. People were not happy about that either. Like, objectively, Platinum is just a better experience. If what you want to do is play Gen 4, the best experience should be Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but it's actually Pokemon Platinum still, which is insane because that came out in 2008. But anyway, then we got Legends Arceus, and the people looking for something new in the franchise really liked it, but there was a big part of the fan base that really was not into the Legends series, right? It was really a hit or miss for people. And I know, again, a lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't like it. I was not a fan of Legends Arceus, straight up. I didn't like the fact that they asked you to catch the same Pokemon over and over again. I didn't like the new battle style. I'm a simple guy. I'm fine with the turn-based combat. I think turn-based games are great. I mean, I've played other turn-based games. I think turn-based can still do well in 2025, right? So I actually prefer turn-based combat, believe it or not. And so I didn't love Legends Arceus. The backlash for Scarlet and Violet was also insane. Now, those copies actually sold well, but again, it was a vast open world with ain't nothing going on. You couldn't even go in none of them buildings, brother. There were no buildings in those games you could go into besides the gyms and the school and your home at the start of the game. Those were like basically the only buildings you could go into in the entire game, besides like the research facilities at the end in Area Zero. My point is, I think a lot of people were burned by Scarlet and Violet, right? And I think that's where the backlash upticked even more. Okay, and then from there, Legends EA comes out, and I think that backlash is at fever pitch. I think the backlash is at an 11 out of 10 right now, and I'm really curious to see how the next generation of Pokemon sells. Now, do I think it's gonna flop? No, of course not. I mean, we look at this. The slop enjoyers enjoyed the slop. I mean, it is what it is. They're going to enjoy the next one as well, right? Is it going to sell 1.4 million units? Maybe it'll sell more because it's a mainline game. Maybe it won't. I have no idea. But one thing is for sure, the backlash from ZA is going to carry into the next generation, and people's expectations are going to be even higher, right? Because they were burned by Scarlet and Violet. Now they were burned by Legends ZA, and I think a lot of people are getting sick and tired of it. Again, I don't mean to repeat myself here, but just look at the videos surrounding Legends ZA. They're getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. Even Asmongold covered this. He doesn't care about Pokemon at all, right? And he's made like 3 videos about the game talking about he just cannot believe how absolutely garbage the game looks, right? And that's what your average gamer thinks of Pokemon. Look no further than Asmongold. He's the Roach King for a reason, right? All he does is sit inside and play video games. And so if you're looking for an authentic gamer's opinion of Pokemon Legends EA, look no further, right? The average gaming community has been pointing and laughing at the Pokemon community for the better part of a decade, right? It's been a joke. Everyone knows it's been a joke. The only people that don't know that are in their little bubble saying, oh no, but it's fun, so it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, fine, but like, you're gonna keep getting garbage, right? So in that way, I think that Pokemon might actually be cooked for the next release because the backlash has only been growing, at least from what I can tell, and it's completely justified. Again, it is the most valuable media franchise in the world. If there's any media franchise that could serve you a quality game and quality experience, it's the Pokemon Company, and yet they keep serving us slop, and that's why I'm done with it. On my shelf back here, this entire shelf, all of this is every Pokemon game except for Legends EA. I loved the franchise. I put thousands of hours into the franchise. Pokemon Yellow taught me how to read. Like, I'm critical of Pokemon Legends EA because how much I love the franchise, and I think that's what people don't understand, right? People look at my videos and say, oh, Omniarch's just a grifter, and it's like, no, what you don't understand is that the backlash, and I think this is why I feel so vindicated, right? Because I get to see your comments. There's like 7,000 comments on my last Legends EA video, and I can't read them all all, but I've been going through a lot of them, and the truth is, this is the pill that is so hard to swallow for the Pokemon fanboys, right? The reality that they can't believe is occurring in front of their eyes is that all the backlash is coming from Pokemon fans. That's what they don't get. Now, sure, there's the people who saw the Asmongold video and they never play Pokemon, but they're like, wow, that game looks like shit in 2025, and they get mad at it, right? That's totally true. But all the people in the comments section, the hundreds of thousands of people watching my video, a majority of them are diehard Pokemon fans. That's the truth. That's the actual reality here, is that the backlash is not coming from grifters, right? I know it would make you feel better if that were the case, but unfortunately for you, it's actually the case that people who love the Pokemon franchise are the ones that are the most critical of it here, because they've been getting slop since 2022 and they're sick of it. Arguably even before then, right? You could make the argument for Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Some people would make the argument for Sword and Shield, and even beyond that. Okay, so that's the truth, is that the diehard Pokemon fans are the ones that are doing the backlash here, and I'm wondering how cooked Pokemon might be with their next release here. The other thing that I'm super curious about is, what is the sales drop off going to be for Pokemon Legends EA this week, right? So we have last week's sales data. That was launch week. Everyone who was hyped for the game is going to buy that game, but now that there's been so much backlash for the game, and now that it is undeniable, right? The reality is undeniable. The game looks like shit. It plays like shit. The game is short. It's like 25 hours, maybe 30 hours if you're really taking it slow. The map is tiny. You can run from point A to point B in 2 minutes. Like, the map is actually microscopic compared to open world games, right? So objectively, the user scores are in, the game is garbage, right? And so now I'm wondering, okay, how are the sales going to fall off now that the first week wave of hype is gone, right? Now that that hype period is over, how many people waited, looked at the game objectively and said, oh, actually, I was gonna get it, but I waited for reviews. It turns out the game's not for me. It looks like shit. Objectively, it is what it is. I'm just not gonna buy it, right? I'm curious to know if the actual, genuine, authentic, and organic backlash for the low quality of the game will affect second week sales and beyond. Again, I want to be very clear here. It's still gonna sell well. I've made this abundantly clear in my first video covering Pokemon Legends EA. I said the game is probably going to sell between 8 and 15 million units, probably 10 to 12 million units in its lifespan. I think that's totally fine. I'm wondering if total unit sales, right? Because in case you guys didn't know, Pokemon Legends Arceus sold over 14 million copies by March of 2023. Of course, that number is probably over 15 million now. It's been a couple of years since that number. Less than Power World, by the way, but hey, it is what it is. I know Power World was cheaper. Regardless, I'm curious to know if the backlash towards Legends EA will have a meaningful impact on its total sales, even though it clearly did not have any effect on its first week sales. It is just in line with Legends Arceus, exactly as it was. I'm curious to know about like the US numbers. I guess I don't know when or if we're going to get those, but who knows. In Japan, numbers are the same, but total sales could fall off a cliff depending on next week's. We'll take a look maybe if there's something interesting there. I'm really not comfortable making a prediction either way. I would not be surprised if sales continue to be really well for the game, because again, it's the slop consumers of Pokemon. They're just going to eat the slop because they don't know any better. They're playing their game while they're licking the windows of the small bus on their way to school. You know what I mean? Anyway, if you guys made it to the end of the video, consider dropping a thumbs up. It really helps out tiny channels like mine a ton, and double check to see if you're subscribed.